Right, hello everybody. Welcome to the open house in Brussels. It's very good to see a lot of faces here today. We've got a very exciting panel now about the next generation of AI and blockchain. We have an amazing panel here full of great creators in the space. And I'll allow them all to introduce themselves one by one. So, Lude, would you maybe like to start?
Test, test. No. Test, test. Test. Yeah. Let's try this one. Okay, yeah, first of all, welcome from my side as well to the second MagnetAI open house, this time in Brussels. I'm Lude, I'm co-founder and CGO at MagnetAI. And as you probably already heard from our CEO Luke earlier in his keynote speech, we are building the very first ModelFi protocol. And what does that mean? This means we want to create financial opportunities for AI creators, for AI end users, investors that are interested in the space, and also GPU providers. And in specific, we're going to do that by building one mutual platform that brings all of those different stakeholders together, and where we apply blockchain-based principles such as tokenization, shared ownership, and monetization to provide value to our users. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks very much, Lude. Nate, maybe do you want to take over now?
Yeah, and thanks for having me. My name's Nate Holliday, co-founder and CEO of Space and Time. Space and Time's a verifiable compute layer for Web3 and AI. Think about smart contracts, AI agents. They need to be able to connect to a database, and they need the results of that database to be verifiable. So anything that you can do in a database within a SQL capabilities, you can now verify that with Space and Time.
Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Calanthia. I'm the co-founder of Masa. Masa is a decentralized AI network whereby people earn by contributing data. We basically set up a decentralized network of node workers and validators, whereby we aggregate, annotate, and analyze data for AI training. Glad to be here today, and I'm very happy to be back.
All right, thanks for having me as well. My name's Mark. I'm the co-founder at Aethir. At Aethir, we build a decentralized enterprise-grade GPU infrastructure for gaming and AI companies. I think what makes Aethir different to maybe other compute providers in the space is that despite being decentralized, we're 100% enterprise-grade, right? So we have 43,000 GPUs within our network distributed all over the world. Every single one of them is connected to enterprise-grade network infrastructure sitting in a data center. That means, again, we do have co-located high-performance GPU equipment like H100s with the largest H100 stack in Web3 with around 3,000 plus H100 systems. So we work closely with big AI companies doing training runs or inferencing runs, but we also have a strong gaming focus as well with a large amount of GPU compute out scaling our cloud gaming and cloud publishing infrastructure as well. Thank you.
Awesome. And hi everyone, my name is Christian. I'm co-founder and head of BD and marketing at MyNetwork. MyNetwork is an FHE project. Fully homomorphic encryption is the ability to run compute upon encrypted data without decrypting that data. And so we use this specifically for AI and POS systems to allow FHE to basically create a shared private state for anywhere that consensus needs to be achieved in validator networks. So think of an AI specifically as validators that are ranking models. If they can do that in a shared private state, then the node operators cannot copy each other, creates more secure, more reliable models for decentralized AI.
All right, thanks everybody. So obviously we have a great diverse background here. We've got GPU, we've got data, we've got security, we have models. So we'll get a lot of deep information here, right? So maybe let's start about talking about technology, right? So Nate, maybe do you want to try and tell us a little bit more about what you think this term, next AI blockchain, might represent?
I think it's a great question. I think we have blockchains today, and typically they're financial ledgers, right? They're transactions that are happening on the block. AI takes a lot more data than just transactional data that's happening on a blockchain. So this notion of this next generation AI blockchain obviously is going to have data and input into that blockchain that goes far beyond just transactional data. So I think the ability to scale that next generation AI blockchain is going to be really important for big data sets, for history of data, and to be able to have kind of large algorithms and models that are running across that data set as well. So it's going to look very different than just a blockchain, right? And so I think just the notion of an AI blockchain is a bit confusing if you just think of blockchains as simple financial ledgers.
Yeah, it's quite an intriguing term, right? Next question is for Mark. So obviously, it is an intriguing term. It kind of implies that the next generation of AI might be brought forward with the use of blockchain technology, right? I'd like to know what you think the key components are going to be to help usher this in and bring this forward.
I think when you look at what AI needs to succeed, right? You have kind of compute, you have data, you have power, right? These are all kind of intrinsic to the AI puzzle. And to be honest, if you look at who we want building AI in the future, if we want AI being built outside the walled gardens of kind of big tech and just a small number of big tech companies, you need to kind of increase the accessibility to those resources, right? At Aethir, we focus on increasing accessibility to compute. You've probably all heard that there's a global compute scarcity, right? People like Elon Musk coming out saying things like GPUs are harder to buy than drugs, right? You've got Zuckerberg out there purchasing almost $11 billion worth of GPUs in a single hit, right? There is an increasingly difficult market out there for startups and small to medium-sized businesses to access AI infrastructure, access compute infrastructure. So we kind of looked at that problem pretty deeply at Aethir, and we kind of broke it down into 4 distinct pieces, right? So the first was obviously buy pressure. There's a huge amount of buy pressure on the market from these big tech companies. They seem to have essentially an insatiable appetite for compute, and they're really kind of putting a lot of pressure on these traditional compute channels through, hyperscalers and the like. Subject to that, almost the flip side of the coin is the supply side, right? The vast majority of that compute is being delivered by NVIDIA, and NVIDIA can only produce so many chips per year. Right now, it just doesn't seem like it's enough to match that global compute demand. Alongside that, right, the third issue really is kind of LLM complexity, right? As later models, more complex models are being released, the compute requirements for those models are seemingly exponentially higher than the compute requirements of previous generation models, right? But within the same time frame that we had those new models released, we're not seeing exponential increases in compute or exponential advancements in compute power from individual chips, right? So there's this like widening gap between the compute that we have and the compute that we kind of need as a result of these kind of more advanced models. But bringing it kind of back to the blockchain piece, there's also this global inefficiency, right? We're not very good as a market at managing GPU resources, right? We're bad at forecasting. We're bad at kind of utilizing resources effectively, particularly when we are in a situation like we're in now, where we're FOMO buying, right? Tech companies are really worried about the inability for them to purchase that compute maybe at a later date, so they're purchasing it now ahead of schedule, ahead of maybe their actual demand. Long story short, the global compute market's pretty inefficient at how they manage compute. And as a result of that, there is this kind of latent supply out there that is inaccessible as a result of this inefficiency. And I think the blockchain, and that's what we're building, provides a really interesting opportunity to resurface this compute, right? If you can create this infrastructure layer where you can use the blockchain, you can use this trustless ledger to guarantee reward, to guarantee connectivity, to remove the issue that an owner of that GPU might have when they're thinking about contributing it to someone else's network, right? You can create this kind of trustless, permissionless environment where compute can be aggregated and then resurfaced and exposed to this global demand ecosystem. And that's something that you can really only do scalably on the blockchain. So I think, as far as it relates to Aethir, I think that this is a kind of a globally relevant issue within AI that is honestly best served technically within the context of Web3 on the blockchain. And that's pretty cool, right? We're not just, slapping a token on something. It's literally just a very cool solution to a technical challenge.
Yeah. So you raise a lot of points about efficiency and centralization. The next question is going to be for Chris, actually, so the mic's going to have to go the other way. But yeah, you raised points about inefficiency and centralization, right? So obviously we're all doing key work in Web3. We're trying to implement these things to current space in AI. Chris, do you maybe want to tell us a little bit more about what the advantages might be for using Web3 solutions in AI instead of using like the traditional centralized model that we have now?
Advantages, you mean?
Advantages, yes.
Yeah, well, I think long term it's a really simple vision, which is that in the long term, if you have decentralized AI products, that allows more participants to basically earn rewards from the different phases of AI development, which is data aggregation, data refinement, model building, model training, and inference. So right now, all of that, all the value, all that work is being captured by a handful of centralized AI entrants, right? So in a decentralized model, of course, we all can get paid for sharing data. We can contribute to models. You can buy tokens. You can be a developer and actually make models, and obviously you can earn revenue that way. So it's way better where we all get to kind of participate in the development, both from an income generation standpoint. But then there's also this idea that, well, we also get to all participate in what truth is. If LLMs become the new search, which it looks like they are rapidly becoming, who gets to decide what the result is from a query? So right now we're all, relying on Sam Altman to kind of tell us what that is, or whether it's Zuckerberg or even Elon. So I like a future where we all get to kind of there's checks and balances on what is truth, what are the biases in these parameters, what are the biases in the models, and we all get to check that as AI is being developed. Because once it's a finished product and it's already productized and it's revenue generating, it's really hard to go back. That's the long-term vision. I think that's really compelling by itself. I think the challenge in the short term is, well, we need more useful models in crypto AI. We need more than just Bitcoin price prediction models. And we need to have some way to, LLM aggregators that can help model builders build and host new LLMs specifically for crypto use cases. And there's a UX issue there as well. So I think a good way to bootstrap that challenge, or a good way to solve that challenge, is also by tokenizing that development as well. So if we can all participate, it has the ability to kind of, frog leap over centralized competitors potentially. But broadly speaking, I think that, and specific to what Aethir is doing as well, there are inherent advantages that blockchains and smart contracts have, decentralized AI have, solving scarcity problems like in GPU compute, and creating a whole new model economy like what Magnet is doing is very sexy, attracting a whole new sector of developers that otherwise would have gone somewhere else because they can actually generate revenue by building models. Instead of just in the centralized way, those developers would basically contributing to an open source project. And if they're the absolute cream of the crop, they might get invited on to a project, and that project then might go from not-for-profit to for-profit, and maybe you get on the cap table, maybe, and like we saw with ChatGPT, but that was a handful of people. So, if you're a model developer in centralized AI, your chances of actually, earning revenue from it, I think, are far less. So that's another advantage that we bring to the table as well in the industry.
Brilliant. Okay, so next one's for Lude. We'll do the old baton passing now. So let's assume we're all correct, and the next generation of AI is going to be brought forward with the use of blockchain technology. How and when do you think we'll get there?
Oh, super interesting question. I don't want to disappoint anyone in here, but I think nobody really can put a date on when blockchain will fully take over mainstream AI. But I think what's fair to say is that it probably will happen way quicker than we see it happening for other industries that are fighting for blockchain adoption, for example, finance. And this is some very, very good reasons for that. One major reason probably is that blockchain tech and AI naturally complement each other. I mean, AI thrives on data, and blockchain provides secure and verifiable ways to actually manage this data. Another very important point that shouldn't be underestimated is the factor of culture. I feel both blockchain and AI are all about rapid innovation, they are all about experimentation, whereas other industries, for example, as finance, are more risk averse, more regulated, and more conservative. So overall, I think it will take a multi-angled approach to see a full widespread adoption of blockchain in AI. But one thing I want to mention here, though, is the point of user experience. I feel we're already ahead of so many technical points compared to our centralized counterparts, but the user experience is still a little bit lacking. And if we get there, that we provide a user experience that's as smooth and as frictionless as our centralized counterparts, then I think, in addition with all those beautiful advantages blockchain brings to the table, it's a no-brainer for AI developers to build on top of, or build with blockchain technology to basically build their AI products and services.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So now the baton moves back to the other end, back to Chris. Hello again.
Oh, my friend.
So it seems as though the next generation of AI might be accelerated by the use of blockchain tech, right? So how does bringing blockchain to AI, for example, improve the security and transparency of AI systems? And what does Mind Network specifically do to help make this happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, speaking to FHE specifically, because it's the holy grail of cryptography, and it's obviously what we're developing, Intel, Google, Microsoft, they have FHE departments. They're going to deploy that on their side for encrypting the data that they see, but they're certainly not going to provide some user tool for applying FHE. And the reason that's a drawback is that if we have the ability to encrypt our own data on the user side, and think of the holy grail here would be inputting a prompt, prompting an LLM, but actually keeping all your prompt data to yourself, encrypting on the user side. So FHE LLMs are probably the holy grail of AI, in our opinion. That's years away. We have a hardware acceleration problem we have to get through, but that would be amazing because then you have leverage to actually charge for your data. You can decide who sees it and when, maybe with a push of a button, certain hours of a day. Right now, we're sharing data multiple times throughout the day to a number of different service providers. So that's a huge advantage to building FHE in blockchain and with smart contracts and in a decentralized format instead of a centralized format. So I think that's probably a good short answer.
Okay, thank you. Mike moves to Nate now. Cheers. So Nate, how important do you think trust is when providing and running AI services, and how does space and time ensure permissionless scalability without compromising trust along the way?
So we're putting a lot of investment into zero knowledge proofs. Ultimately, we know that blockchain verifiability and transparency is really, really important, but it simply doesn't scale for data verifiability. So we're putting a lot of money and a lot of time into verifying sub-second ZK proofs on large data sets, 100 million row tables and under 100 seconds, 100,000 row tables in under a second. The cost of these ZK proofs are no more expensive than running just a simple query, 50% cheaper than your AWS or Microsoft database service provider. It's important because you need to be able to verify data that's being processed in these large-scale big data sets. And it's going to be happening off-chain, right? You're not going to be able to take all of that data they need to drive, LLMs and others and put that all on chain and run it on a blockchain. So one of the things is it's a trustless system, but you need to provide verifiability and transparency in this huge ecosystem of data, which is simply off-chain today and is not very transparent. So we're working with Microsoft, we're working with NVIDIA on how do we show the right type of verifiability around auditing, et cetera, for various inputs on LLMs, et cetera.
Okay, thank you very much. Mark, now for you. One component of next generation AI will be fully decentralized GPU infrastructure, as we know. Why do we think it's so important, though? And what advantages do you think decentralizing this computing power might bring to the development of future AI on Web3?
Yeah, lots of cool things to kind of touch on here, and I'm sure Calanthia has some stuff to say on this as well. But I think decentralized AI, right? When you're building maybe a decentralized compute network anyway, right? People talk a lot about scalability. It's really efficient to scale decentralized networks in Web3, right? Using the blockchain, you can give people trust and you can set smart contracts to reward them for work that's recorded on the blockchain. You can kind of use the infrastructure there to kind of encourage your network to grow in a rapid way, right? Faster than you could within a Web2 ecosystem, right? Similar to that, you have large advantages from a unit economics perspective, right? not having to own and purchase that infrastructure means that the unit economics is very different when you're renting it out and when you're passing that cost through to a provider, or sorry, a buyer on the other side of the market. But maybe something that people don't understand or think about as much is actually the benefit to latency within the network. A lot of people think, okay, decentralized networks are inherently slower, right? But actually, there's some really cool latency advantages to decentralized networks that are pretty cool to kind of think about, right? So latency in networks like this are often largely dictated by how far away a user is from where the compute is happening, right? The further away you are, generally the worse the latency will be for the person receiving the service, right? If you think about how centralized compute scales, right, it generally scales in like clumps, right, in big centralized blobs, right? You're opening up a new data center in a new region, or you're deploying new compute into a new region, right? You'll put all of your compute generally in one location, right? Because you gain benefit from the economies of scale of having all of that compute under one roof, right? You don't need to pay rent on multiple locations. You can have a smaller team to manage a larger amount of infrastructure, but it just makes economic sense for all that compute to be in one place. But if you kind of, think about a dartboard, right, and all your compute's in the middle, essentially the further a user gets away from that bullseye, right, that clump of compute, the worse their experience is going to be, the more latency they're going to experience. And that's a kind of a natural challenge that exists within Web 2 infrastructure. When we think about models getting smaller, I think there's, models are going to get bigger, but they're also going to get smaller, more specific. Models are going to start looking for really quick inference. And I think there's a natural, again, evolution between that type of model and edge computing. When you think about decentralized infrastructure, what's kind of cool is there's no incentive for those compute owners to put their compute together, right? If I have a GPU and you have a GPU and we're deploying into a region, right, there's no incentive for me to make sure that my GPU is next to yours. I don't gain anything from that. So by definition, you kind of have this more spread out compute network that's really, really cool, right? So instead of having this one big blob that gets kind of maybe slightly bigger, but actually by getting bigger, it doesn't really benefit or reduce the latency for the people that already have a poor experience. When you have a decentralized network, you have this kind of really cool alignment between size of the network and performance of the network, right? And that's really, really cool. And I think that as these models get smaller, as they're able to be deployed onto whether it's kind of consumer devices or maybe, edge use case specific devices, I think there's going to be a really interesting performance advantage that we see in decentralized networks. As an example, Aethir has this cool device, Aethir Edge, right? It's a consumer mining device. It's a little box about the size of like a Sonos speaker. And the Aethir Edge can be purchased by anyone. You plug it in to power in your home, it connects to your Wi-Fi, and it operates as this kind of edge node, this enterprise-grade edge node within Aethir's network, and we push compute tasks out to that node. And it's really, really cool, right? Because it's compute that's happening right on the edge. And it's this unified, uniform kind of compute layer that we can sell to compute buyers, right? It's not just this hodgepodge of random consumer compute infrastructure that's really difficult to kind of align. So I think decentralized networks are going to have a really interesting part to play in the future of AI.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we'll move from GPU to data with Calanthia. So we have AI solutions that are trained and fine-tuned on heavily centralized data right now, right? There's a lack of transparency as to where this data comes from and how it's obtained and used. So what solutions might blockchain offer to tackle this issue? And how do you leverage blockchain-based principles over at Masa to contribute to the next generation of AI solutions?
Yeah, great question. So I'll probably explain it in the most simplest term ever. In order to train an AI agent who speaks and acts and thinks like Sam Altman, you probably need to ingest a bunch of digital footprint from Sam Altman to train the AI agent. Let's call it a combination of the podcast, video content on YouTube, tweets, et cetera, and web mentions of Sam Altman in various press articles. How to get that from centralized platform? you'll probably need to pay $40,000 per month to Twitter to pay for their developer API. You need to pay a ton of money to TikTok, and they're not well structured and vectorized for AI training purposes exactly. And you cannot even get those mentions directly from YouTube or other platform who do not have a very sophisticated developer API. With Masa, what we have done is truly create an open and permissionless data network where you don't have to pay for anything. You will be able to basically make a query to our Twitter data API, get the most recent 100 tweets from Sam Altman, train your AI agent immediately. Those data you get from Masa API are real-time, structured, vectorized, ready for AI training. As a fun fact, yesterday, my co-founder Brendan watched some panel somewhere and disagree with something that a panelist said, and then he woke up at 4 a.m. today to rage code, and then he started to use all of our data in the Masa network relevant to Elon Musk, and basically created an AI agent that speaks things and talks like Elon Musk within 4 hours' time. That's exactly what you can do. You don't have to pay for anything. We actually got inspired by Elon Musk taking over Twitter because he started to really rate limit Twitter developer API and Firehose. And as you guys know, AI developers, especially smaller AI developers, just simply don't have the budget to pay for those centralized platforms right now. So creating open, permissionless, and access to quality and real-time data is really going to make a difference.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You said like you could get 100 of the latest tweets. How many tweets could you get? Like, because some of these models, they want like a lot of data.
That's actually a great question, and I promise I didn't pay you to ask me the question. We just met on this panel. So actually, you can query as many as you want to. That's a benefit, right? When you use the centralized platform's developer API, they rate limit. That's exactly how they sell you, up-tier you to different kind of packages. You need to up-tier from a mini developer to an enterprise developer, and then they need to basically give you a package for different kind of queries you need to make. With Masa, what we do is that when you query, let's say, 10,000 tweets of Elon Musk, I'm not sure if he tweeted 10,000 times in the past 30 days or so, maybe he did, we'll be able to delegate the work to our network of node workers. They concurrently complete the work, fulfill the data requests, validators validate the output, and return such results of 10,000 tweets back to you as a developer. So in this way, we truly create an open and decentralized network of querying Elon Musk tweets and does not have a limit to it.
So it's a huge benefit of a Web3 implementation in AI, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. So Lude, we'll bring it back to yourself. We've talked a lot about how blockchain can foster the next generation AI movement in the back end and on the infrastructure level. We shouldn't forget about end users though. At MagnetAI, how do we intend to channel those innovations and benefits to MagnetAI users?
Yeah, sure. I feel we talked a lot about technical requirements, infrastructure, data, verifiability, etc. Those things are all super important to actually make a fully on-chain AI happen, and probably will provide the foundation for anything else running on top of it. But this doesn't mean that the application side or the application layer is not as equally important or should be neglected. In fact, I feel the application layer is what connects users to these technologies, and which also allows users to benefit from those new innovations. And that's why we, for example, at MagnetAI, focus fully on the user side and the application side. That's what we dedicated ourselves to. And I think it's fair to say that this also can be noticed when looking at our product landscape. For example, our model store is like an AI marketplace that connects end users with AI creators and catering to the demands and needs of both of them. While AI creators probably are looking for a super easy way to deploy and monetize their solution to like a large audience, those AI end users probably are looking for super accessible and cost-efficient solutions. And we can bring those two together. Our second product, our model economy, basically allows users to become a part of their favorite AI model, to share ownership rights with them. And we also offer some incentivization mechanisms like chat to earn through our model economy, which allows those creators to build a more engaging community and to focus on the user. And even our last product, our model network, which supposedly is more on the infrastructure side, is still super user-centric because we provide basically a plug-and-play solution for even not as technical agent creators or bot creators to basically deploy their solution and to power it with decentralized GPU power. But I feel the best of all is that we basically combine all of those different features, products into one holistic platform where the value for the user is basically just one click away.
Yeah, so it allows the users to directly access all these solutions, right, with the front end. They can directly interact.
Yes, it's a super straightforward process for any kind of user of our platform. I would say users could be AI creators, could be the end users. All of them have a super straightforward way to actually deploy their product, to monetize their product. And I think we will see later more of this when Luke actually will have the very first demonstration of our product.
Yeah, thank you. I think we have just a little bit of time, just to very, very briefly tell us a little bit about any particular developments that are happening in AI, in blockchain AI that you guys are particularly excited about. Oh, and you're not allowed to mention your own projects. That's cheating. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm really excited about ModelFi. I'm really excited, and I won't plug just you guys because you're also hosting this, but I mean, Allura is doing something similar. What I like to see is projects that are helping model makers, devs that want to make models and be miners and make valuable models or host models. If you're helping them to earn revenue and to play in the game, that's ultimately, look, I think of decentralized AI as being versus centralized AI. And I know from a user perspective right now, that's unrealistic because we really are not, I don't think, competing. We're punching up big time. There's a lot of work to do. But one way to start is by empowering this kind of this ModelFi economy and helping model makers actually earn revenue and protect their inference if they want, and be able to compete so that you've got one guy that could actually compete with a huge centralized company. Imagine that.
Yeah, I think I'm excited just by the evolution of AI in this Web3 space, right? Every conference I go to, it seems like there's more legit builders doing legit things, building cool stuff. I mean, at Aethir, you know, the vast majority of our revenue comes from Web2 companies, right? It seems like the majority, or at least up until very recently, the majority of Web3 AI companies were still chugging through their cloud credits, right? But we're getting to the point now where we're having, you know, Web3 companies building an AI, looking to purchase compute, scale up their compute, and that's an exciting time, right? I think it's a sign of the credibility of the sector that, you know, the expensive spend needed to scale up your computers is starting to occur.
Yeah, I feel great being in Brussels because back at Consensus in Austin, I feel like we only probably had 5 quality decentralized AI events, MagnetAI House included, of course. But this time around in Brussels, I'm seeing probably 25 or 30 this time around. Obviously, there's an increased sense of enthusiasm in this space. But at the same time, as a founder, I always feel like we should feel the threat from centralized AI, to your point earlier. And I think the solution of that is really not just to work with decentralized AI projects. Obviously, you can probably onboard every single logo on here and it will make a beautiful PowerPoint. But the point is offering decentralized AI solution to the mass, right? To get Web2 AI developers to use your product. So when I heard about your development and you working with Microsoft, I feel very delighted. I think that's exactly where we should go. And we recently got an inbound from Amazon's Bedrock team as well, which is an AI business unit at Amazon, who's trying to use our data to train AI agents they're developing internally. We need those AI developers outside of our echo chamber to start taking notice of all of us, what we're building. And that's how we can bridge the long-term optimism with short-term viability in the industry.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with what she said. I think that in the future, applications that are building on AI need to be building on various types of solutions and ones that we talked about, right? You have to have GPU and compute. You have to have the right data. You have to have the right models that you run. We want that in an open source community. We want it verifiable and transparent. You know, we're embedding our proof of SQL into every different type of database in the world. We did a big announcement with Google with with BigQuery as well to turn that into a verifiable database, even though it's centralized. I think we'll know when we get it right when applications are being developed all around the world and underlying GPU technology or model or data technology is being embedded in that solution, and the end user may not even know, right, that it's being run on an AI blockchain economy or however we want to define it. But that's the future that we're building to, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, maybe last word from my side. I feel everybody or a lot of projects into this intersection of blockchain and AI are building great solutions, great tools, including all the panelists here today. And we work or intend to work with all of you guys for our own solution. And I'm mostly excited about when we get there, where we can bring all of those different beautiful things we are working on individually together to actually build those products and solutions we need to prove that blockchain and AI is the way to go. And I think this also comes with a lot of community involvement, and all of those panelists in here as well. They build big on community. If it's like a community-driven infrastructure network, community-driven data allocation, and so on. And I feel once all of this comes together to build products which we can present to the users, then I think we can see a lot of Web2 AI professionals actually switching over to Web3.
Okay, thanks very much, everybody. Shall we maybe open the floor to questions? Do we have time for that? I think we have a little bit of time. Yeah? Oh, you have a question? Please. I'll pass the mic over.
So, question for Masa. Are you guys also processing Web3 social media data? So, I'm talking about Farcaster, Blue Sky, Lens, Mastodon.
The magic of I think I'm on. Great. So the magic of Masa is that we want to build a foundational decentralized network of node worker so that we can set up specialized data scraper to serve different needs, right? Currently, the most popular ones, without a doubt, Twitter, Discord, Telegram, web, podcast, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, etc. But it is extremely easy to set up a new data scraper, for example, including Farcaster and other new specialized data category. So the answer is not currently, but if you want it, I can spin it up for you.
Okay, lovely. Has anybody else got any questions for our panel today? Oh, yes, of course. It's okay, I can walk. There you go.
First of all, it's me. I've got a problem. I wonder if it's... I'm moving my AirPods out the way, sorry. First of all, like, really cool. This is sort of stuff that gets me into Web3, so really enjoyed everything everybody was saying. I've got questions for all of you. I'd love to talk to you all separately. My big question, I guess, is in terms of reputation, everybody seems to be doing something where some idea of controlling reputation, understanding reputation, whether it be from where your data comes from, where your GPU providers come from, where your model builders are coming from. Everybody's doing something where reputation could be important for a user, for somebody making those choices. Is that on anybody's radar at the moment? Is that something you're thinking about?
I'll answer it kind of in two ways. I think, first of all, there's a lot of interesting work being done on kind of decentralized ID, right? How to, proof of humanity, the ability to show who you are and the importance of humanity in this world where content is really an unlimited resource, right? So I think that there'll be a lot of alignment between technological advancements in the DID space and areas where reputation is kind of important. Within our network, we have actually an entire role that is dedicated to ensuring the integrity and, as a result, the kind of reputational management of compute within our network. So we call them checkers, right? They're a decentralized role that our community can act as. They have to essentially purchase a license. It's kind of like a yellow cab in the US, right? You buy a license to have the yellow cab, but you don't actually earn anything unless you drive the cab, right? Same situation in our network. You buy the ability to have reputation within the network as a checker, and then you conduct work, and for that work you're rewarded. And it just so happens that the work that they do within our network is ensuring that if you say you're a certain type of GPU, they'll check and ensure that you are. If you say you're doing a certain type of work, they'll confirm that you're doing that work and that you recorded it correctly. And as a result of that, we're able to generate these reputational measures for compute providers within our network. And based on those reputational measures, maybe you'll get selected more for jobs or selected less. And if you act poorly over an extended period of time, or maybe not even so extended, you'll eventually lose your reputational permission to act within. So super important and good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I agree. In our network, we call reputation utility. So when we talk about decentralized AI, I think a very important component is really this incentive mechanism that you bring to your network, right? How you reward people based on their contribution. And on the Masa network, very similar to how BitTensor designed their incentive mechanism, it's a competitive model based on game theory, meaning that you're rewarded based on the utility of the data you provide. And then there's a multidimensional framework we have designed for utility, judging by uptime, quality of the data, who consumed it, how much utility they get out of the data that you provide. So in short, utility is a very, very important measurement within our ecosystem. That, I guess, is reputation.
These things happen. It's okay.
That means good luck.
So maybe anybody else wants to comment on that one?
I just agree with everything that was said. I mean, reputation is super important when it comes to utility and node operations, of course.
Brilliant, yeah. We have time for maybe one more question from the audience, if anybody wants to ask. Yeah? Okay, good stuff. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and your insights. And thanks, everybody.